All right, everybody, this is your boy like one half Enduro back at it again, trying to do another video talking about Switch and stuff. This one, yeah, physical games are dying. Now, I know you know why physical games are dying. I know what physical games are dying, but it's funny now. They wanna pin a lot of people pin a lot of shit on Nintendo for certain things now. Again, they have done some stuff in the past, but again. Que sera, sera again. We're back at it again. You know, I've proven my point over and over and over and over and over and over and over that why it is what it is. And these YouTubers just keep on saying, "Oh yeah, blah blah blah." You're physical now. You want to be now. You're digital now. You want to be back physical again. Well, I'm sorry, buddy, but you can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. You can't have it both ways. So let's go with again. The physical game is over. Let's do it. I already saw this. The first comment on this video is why again I hate gamers in a way. First comment was like, well, if it's physical and we ain't owning it, then it ain't stealing if it's emulation. Okay, you put that in. Go to court and see if that worked for you. Steal. Go ahead. Steal it and see what happens. You moron. Boy, people come with this excuse for crap. But anyway, well, let's see what he has to say before and call it that.
We are truly living in the worst timeline.
Not really. You reap what you sow. That's what it is. That's how it works, bro.
You guys remember how just about a week ago we were all worried about the death of physical media? Or at least the death of physical Switch games? But
Not
everyone
really.
was like, no, don't worry. Mario Kart World and DK Bonanza are gonna be on a regular cartridge. Well,
Yeah.
This is what happens when you give people an avenue. When you give them an option. When you allow them to further blur the line between a digital game and a physical game. And
Okay.
I know, I'm a boomer because I want physical media to remain prevalent. Well, what happens in a decade from now when you no longer have access to your video game? What happens when you still have the keycard, but the old eShop is shut down? At least
what it
when
is.
you purchase a digital game, you know you're purchasing a digital game. But there are going to be a lot of parents, a lot of kids that get screwed over because they're buying a game and they don't realize that they have to download the entire thing onto their console. Which
Oh,
not
now
only
we
means
care
it's going
about
to
the
be
kids
taking up
and
storage
parents.
space on their console, the same way a digital game would, but it also means that at any given point in the future, maybe it's next generation, maybe it's the one after it, that cartridge can easily become useless, and whether it does or not, it is entirely up to the mercy of Nintendo. But let's back up a little bit. What?
Sony and Microsoft don't account for this same thing too? On this Steam Deck? Come on now. Come on now.
Triggered this? Well, according to a Blue Sky post, with pre-orders live in Japan, there are many Switch 2 edition games up for sale, specifically third-party ones, outside of a few games like Cyberpunk.
And what's the argument? We know third party. I said when that keycard thing happened, I saw that. You can go to Nintendo, and I forgot what the name of the damn channel, GVC or whatever it is, whatever those guys are. They split off from the Nintendo Life, and good gaming vibes, something like that. Anyway, forget it. But point is, they looked at the files for third party so they could put games on the Nintendo Switch. Okay, I got a question. I can understand that you went maybe 25% up. You say, okay, well, we need to put graphics packs and all kind of stuff, whatever. Some of these games that have been upgraded though, when you switch to, have been doubled or 125% more than what it was. How? Why? Are you adding new games? Are you adding new features that we could have had on the Switch before? Something ain't right. And some of these games are still on the Switch. So what are you adding? Are you adding 4K pack textures and stuff? So and here's the thing. If that's the case, and if 4K pack and a 60 frames per second is all that is that much gigabytes, then it goes from my argument of saying, hey, y'all talk about the prices of stuff, it's gonna go up. That's what it is. You tell me what you think down in the comment section below. But that's a lot of stuff to add on there. But third party, not surprised by that at all.
2077, which isn't exactly a small game. A whole lot of them, rather than putting the game on a regular physical cart, they opted to go for the key card. And of
Yeah.
course they did. Why wouldn't
Yes.
they? They pass the storage cost onto the customer, and they did
You pass the storage cost onto the customer. Okay. You then don't buy the key card. You think my sister's gonna buy Sonic? I think you have Sonic and Shadow, the thing game. You think I'm gonna buy the game for the Switch 2 again when it's a key card when we have the whole game on the Switch 1 cartridge? No. Well, you get 60 frames per second. Don't care. Game plays well, as long as you ain't got that much breaking bugs, don't care. There's Sweden 1 and 2 right here. I'll buy the Switch 1 version. It's cheaper, and I don't care for that. It's turn-based anyway, so don't really care again in that. Not my setup.
that because Nintendo gave them the opportunity to do so. So,
Yes.
as a bit of a history lesson, companies, specifically third-party companies that are looking to
Yes.
compete a lot more than first-party titles on Nintendo,
Yes.
want to be in the retail space. They want people to see their games on the shelf so they could potentially buy them. Because, as you know, somebody might be in the store looking for something in the electronics section, pass by a case, see a $40 price tag on it with a picture of Sonic, and figure, you know what, that's a good gift, and it's affordable. But we all know that physical cartridges cost money, so if you want to sell something physically, it's going to dip into your profits. What some companies have attempted to do is to sell a digital download code, I'm speaking this gen and last gen, was to put a download code inside a game's case. This would give them all of the benefit of being on the shelf for retail without spending as much as actually putting the title onto a cartridge. The thing is, these codes sold
Not for
really
me.
bad. And I'm glad they did. They were banking on parents that would just see a game case, purchase the title, and go and give it to their kid. They wanted to normalize this practice, but the customers voted with their wallets, and they just
Good.
have not sold well.
To a degree. Come on. On the Nintendo side, yeah. On the Sony and Microsoft side, no, they did not. They did not. So let's be honest, my friend. You a Nintendo person. Let's be honest.
Or at least as well as these companies would have hoped. So, as an alternative, the brilliant and innovative minds at Nintendo have blessed us with the key cards. They are basically what those digital download codes were, but instead they come in a hollow cartridge. So now, the unaware customer, the same one that might have picked up that digital download code and thought to themselves, well,
Meet Milo.
Again, Sony's
Lowe's
doing
all-new
this.
AI-powered home and
We all
food.
do.
this is dumb. I can just buy the game digitally instead of this if I really wanted to.
Not
That
really.
average person will probably not know any
Oh,
better.
average
They'll
person,
see
okay,
a cartridge, they'll assume it's a regular physical game, only to find out it is a digital game with an extra step. But that's not even the worst part. What I just described was an example of somebody that doesn't know any better. The worst
Okay.
part is that people that do understand what's going on cannot buy these games physically. This was already starting to happen to an extent in the previous generations.
Thank
but This is
you.
now in full effect. We're
was
talking
going to
games
be.
like Street Fighter 6, Sonic and Shadow Generations, Bravely Default, Puyo Puyo frickin' Tetris.
Not
These are
really.
games that you cannot buy the Nintendo Switch 2 edition version of physically. Remember,
Then
Nintendo
don't buy it.
said that their first-party titles, specifically DK Bonanza and I think a few of the other ones they mentioned, like Mario Kart World, those games are going to fit on a regular cartridge, and they're entirely planning on putting them onto a regular cartridge, which means something like Puyo Puyo Tetris should fit on a regular Nintendo Switch cartridge. Of course, we all assumed this meant that PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 games would be able to come to the Nintendo Switch in some kind of physical form, because the key cards would help allow that. But no, instead, it's just a
It's half and half. That's what it. No, it did do that. Third party was gonna do that no matter what, sir. So they gave him that. The only thing about it is, if you don't like it, you could sell it. Or you could take it and give it to another friend, compared to just the code, like you just said, the box with a code. You could at least still lend it. You still could give it to people. That is a difference. It's a better option, but I'm not for it. I'm not buying a key card per se. If I buy a key card, it gotta be a third party indie person. That's the way I look at it as. That's why I look at it gotta be.
another dig of the shovel to build that 6-foot deep hole and throw all physical media inside there. Now, mind you, something like Redo Remastered on Switch 1 is on a regular cartridge without any additional download. And that's because the Switch 1 carts were cheaper. So this tells me that for third-party games that are going to end up being cross-generational, we can likely expect that on the Switch 1 version, they will all be on the cartridge, and on the Switch 2 edition version, they'll just be game key cards. And I understand there is a scenario where there...
And there you go. And I'll back up a little bit. And that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm not going to buy it for the thing. It's not worth it. Just to me, not worth it.
There's a benefit to these game keys. That on the Switch 1 version, they will all be on the cartridge, and on the Switch 2 edition version, they'll just be game key cards. And I understand there is a scenario where there's a benefit to these game keys. They allow some form of physical ownership to a digital title. Like I said, they allow larger AAA titles to make their way over to the Switch if they don't fit on the cartridges. But instead, what ends up happening is these companies decide that it's better for them to save on the cost and force you to spend the money on extra storage. Now, in theory, this could be fine and dandy if games were cheaper, for example, but yeah,
they're gonna be expensive.
Although there is a theory that it might be how things work. Not necessarily that games will be priced lower because they are on the keycard, but it might actually work out that games that are cheaper end up on the keycard. For example, Cyberpunk 2077 and Rune Factory are on the card. These are being sold as $70 titles. But Sonic and Shadow Generations is a $50 title and it's going to be on the keycard. So there's a theory that anything $70 and more will be on the cartridge. But it's just a theory at the moment. But I don't think this is a cause and effect situation. The way I see it, it's not that games are able to drop below $70 because they're using the key cards. Rather, these are games that are already supposed to be cheaper than $70, and as such, they get to use the key cards. That's my theory anyway. Now, I know
not
what
a
you
bad
might be
theory.
thinking.
I can argue with you
How
on
is this
that.
Nintendo's problem?
Yeah.
For memories that last.
I think I know where he's gonna go with this.
They're not
So we'll see. But I think I know a little bit. But let's see what he said. How is this Nintendo problem? Let's see what he says.
the ones that told these third-party titles to put their games on the key cards. They offered them cartridges that they could buy, and those third-party companies are the ones that are being stingy. Well, according to reports, there are two carts available. Either the 8GB one or the 64GB one.
Yep.
But technically, I don't know if it's officially confirmed that there is an 8GB one. It's just that there's a smaller cart. The assumption is that it's an 8GB card. It's entirely possible that Nintendo only has a 64GB card available, and then the cheaper option is the key card. But even if they actually did have an 8GB card, 8GB is not a lot. Many games will not be able to fit on that 8GB card.
That's
and
for
it's not like
indies.
they have a 16 or 32 option, at least nothing that's reported anyway. So now these third-party companies have two choices. They can go for the 64GB card, which is rumored to cost around $10 a card on its own, or if they can't fit onto the 8GB, if that 8GB even exists, they can spend a fraction of that $10 and just go for the digital card. It ends up being a win-win situation for Nintendo. Either they get the benefit of the third-party publisher giving them more money, or they get to continue to do away with true physical media. In effect, Nintendo wants everybody to put their games on these key cards. The only advantage the player
Wow.
has is they're able to resell the key card when they're done with the game completely. But
Compared
like I
to
said
what
earlier, that only works until Nintendo decides to stop supporting their authentication method, which would effectively turn that game into a dud. And if you wanted to buy
And then what are you gonna do with the other one? When it's just the key code and you can't download it, what you gonna do with that? It's the same thing. It's not no different. This will at least give you that you could turn your money back in or whatever and keep GameStop alive for a little while longer or the thrift stores. But other than that, not really. So come on now.
again, you'd probably have to buy it on the new console. These pieces of plastic are going to be so useless that I don't even know if collectors are going to be going after them. Imagine a modern day collector's retro library where they just go and pull out a game and put it in their console and turn it on. No internet, no download, nothing. In the future, that's not going to be possible. Not with practices like this anyway. So while yes, this is better than those old digital codes because it is technically reusable on multiple consoles,
You
the
think?
difference is not many of these games were available as digital download codes. That wasn't really that common of a thing. But now, it seems like there are more third-party titles interested in using these game key cards than to actually sell the physical game to the customer. But I guess I'm not surprised. See, my whole issue with the Switch 2 has primarily been these types of practices. They are practices that remind me of why I stopped buying PlayStations, why I stopped going for the big heavy-duty console and stuck with Nintendo. Microsoft was destroyed for this kind of stuff in 2013.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is the Switch 1 is in so many hands now. How many Sony fanboys also own themselves a Switch? There are a growing number of PlayStation 5 games that aren't even completely on the disc. So of course these dual console people are not going to be fazed by it. They've already accepted it. They made amends with it. They've come to terms with it. And some of them were even born into it. But one of the nice things about Nintendo was that they held off on these kinds of practices. They started to tiptoe in last generation. There were games that were not completely on those cartridges. And many people warned about this and were completely shrugged off and laughed at. And many people are still going to shrug it off and laugh at it. Because all they care about is that the Switch 2 is powerful enough to play modern third-party titles. Which means you'll get all the baggage of a modern third-party title. This is what happens when Nintendo stops playing their own game. This is what happens when Nintendo starts to follow the crowd. Nintendo wasn't great just because it had bright and vibrant colors. It was great for me because it was the last stand of what...
And I give you that, Dean, since you're a Nintendo person. I give you that. I respect you enough to say I give you that, because you're in the same boat as I am. But here's the thing again. We can't force something when the publishers, the game designers, the publishers and game media keep pushing a certain way. I mean, the narrative goes to say, come on, we've seen the videos. Look, again, we just came out of that thing after... Well, it was basically a month of everybody hating on Nintendo, just jumping on the bandwagon. And some had legitimate, like you're doing right now, legitimate pause to say something. I got no problem with that. But let's be honest with it, though. A lot of these people didn't give a damn about stuff like this. Just saying. They were just in it just to make their little games and stuff. And they want convenience. And I've said this multiple times before. Convenience is the death of creativity, and everybody wants convenience. That's something that's convenient, that's nice. So hey, it's what it is. That's what we got. That's what it is.
The true gaming console used to be. It was the last gaming company that held off on all of these modern day practices that are ultimately taking more ownership out of the player's hand and causing the prices to increase on their terms. But this has been coming. Many people have seen this approaching slowly but surely. For many people, this is not a surprise. They jumped ship a long time ago because Nintendo showed these signs. And again, Nintendo is to blame here. They gave the partners a cheaper alternative, knowing full well that third-party partners are always going to go for the cheap.
So what did you want to do as a business person? You tell me what you want to do as a business person. Don't supply that, and then they don't bring the games to third party, and then when people will say, "Oh, Nintendo console is great, but they don't have the third party." Like, they're always gonna back what it is. That's the problem. I'm buying a Nintendo Switch 1. I bought a Nintendo Switch 1. Yeah, I bought one. I didn't get one, but I bought a Nintendo Switch 1. And okay, let's be honest. I bought a GameCube for Nintendo games. I bought a Wii U for Nintendo games. I'm not gonna lie to anybody. I'm being honest. I bought a Wii U for Nintendo games. I got a Nintendo Switch for Nintendo games and indie games. That was really good. That's what I got it for. Third parties. If you take indie and we put indie to certain things and lock them out, I don't have a lot of third party games. I do have a lot of indie games. And they got my respect. So again, what you want them to do? But a lot of people, you know how people are gonna say stuff, whatever. So it is what it is. That's what's going on. We take what we could take.
option. Their own former president, Yamauchi, said that many third-party companies are just looking for a quick cash grab. I'm not saying
No shit.
Yamauchi was right, nor am I saying that Yamauchi was a good person. But what I am saying is that if I know that Yamauchi felt that way, everybody at Nintendo in Japan knows it too. Now, really, the only hope for a solution here is that these things sell terribly. The reason the digital download codes are not as available as they used to be is because nobody wanted to buy them, or very few people at least. So if people become the wiser and realize that they're not actually buying a physical game, then hopefully they'll avoid buying it altogether. But if there's no alternative, and their only choice is to download digital, which they might not want to do because they want the resale value, they might just figure, whatever, at least I got something physical out of my purchase, and buy it anyway. But if they don't, and if enough people don't, they might hopefully go the way of the digital download code inside a cartridge because the customers will vote with their wallets. But that also might mean third-party publishers just decide to go fully digital. They might figure they spent the money on using the game key cards and those didn't sell. They rather just go digital because enough people are
And
just
there
gonna
you
do
go.
that.
So that's you prove my point. That's the whole point of it. So you wanted that or not? I'm just saying. I love Batman Arkham's thing, and you're correct. I am not Arkham. The only game I will buy that's a digital key code, and sad enough, it don't really apply to me too much, but it does suck, is Monster Hunter Stories 1 and 2, where I can get the 1 remastered on the cart and 2 the digital download because I already have 2 already. So I already have 2, so it doesn't bother me, and I give the code to my sister so she can at least play like I know she never played a game. That's what I'll do. But yeah, that's the situation.
Very hard to predict how this will all play out. But I mean, that's part of the reason I'm boycotting the Switch 2 in the first place. I'm hoping
Really?
Nintendo becomes the wiser. I'm hoping this is just a failed experiment for them.
So you're boycotting the console? Oh, hey. Props to you, Nintendo Dean. Boycott it, don't buy it. I want to and play some old Nintendo games because again, you don't have to have the latest game to play. To have a Nintendo channel, you can play our old Nintendo stuff. Switch, Wii U, Wii, DS, 3DS, you can do that. So you're correct. Go ahead. I back you on that. It's your money, so you do what you want to do with it.
The same way Disney tried to move away from movie theaters for a little bit and flirted with the ideas of streaming their new releases, they eventually
No, let's not compare that to Disney. The reason that I don't watch Disney because their movies are shit. They don't have that magic they had back in the 90s and the 2000s. That's the real reason. A lot of people hate their movies now.
It back to the movie theater because even if it cost them more money, it was making them even more profits. So we could end up in the same scenario here. But I don't know, Nintendo is just really pushing the limits here. Like, I was throwing shade at Sony and Microsoft a few minutes ago, but they actually are not this bad. I think there are some...
Hold on, wait, they're not this bad? See? Okay, all right, they're not this bad. Their consoles are more expensive. If you're gonna go, this doesn't bother me, but I'm just giving a point. The consoles are more expensive. Their games are bigger. They got more patches in their games. They have less exclusives. But they're not bad. They're not bad. They're not the worst. Nintendo's the big bad guy in this one. Holy crap! What, are you serious?
Xbox games that the disc serves as the same type of key to get the game running. I'm not exactly sure about Xbox, but I know for PlayStation, many of the discs still have the data in its entirety on it. You're just required to download it onto your console before playing. So while that kind of sucked, at least you could say that the data was on the disc already. In this case,
games,
it's just a hunk of plastic. But ultimately, we've been trending towards this anyway. This could very well be the last generation where we see any form of physical media when it comes to gaming. Most people are all digital anyway. Maybe I've just become the old man that yells on his lawn about the good old days where we actually owned the stuff that we purchased. But there is
I join you in that
here. This could just be what's happening in Japan. It might vary in different regions. I believe the Western version of Daemon X Machina is going to be on a regular cartridge. So if we're lucky, that'll be the case for all these other games too. But I gotta tell you, I'm not very optimistic about it. Quite frankly, this all really just sucks. Like, this is the launch of a new Nintendo console. My channel is called Nintendine. I should be the most excited person in the room right now. There is a Nintendo Switch in front of me on my desk. And there is another Nintendo Switch behind me on the TV stand. For all intents and purposes, I should be buying the Nintendo Switch 2. But this just doesn't feel like Nintendo anymore. It doesn't feel fun. It feels dirty. It feels greedy. It feels Sony. Sorry, I'm still a fanboy. I don't know. Maybe it's just time to fall in line and buy the Sony Switch 2. It's actually not that big of a deal. I got plenty of Switch 1 games to keep me busy. Either way, I'm sure their pre-orders sold like crazy last night. And I'm sure many of you didn't even make it this far into the video and already commented that you pre-order your Nintendo Switch and that my boycott is all dumb and I will eventually open my eyes to the real world once the Switch 2 becomes the best-selling console in the world. Because that seems to be a common theme in my comment section. But I know most of you are just as ticked off about all this as I am. So, thanks again for joining me. I will catch you on the next one.
Alright. I'm not ready. Dude, you have enough games on your old Switch like you said. You got 2 Switches. Play your Switches. You ain't gotta worry about nothing. Yeah. Switch 2? Yeah, it popped off. It went. It did its thing. So, you ain't gotta worry about that. It's a good thing, and that's what you have. Oh, shit, that home. I forgot this thing. Okay, so yeah, that's the Nintendo Dean. Again, I'm sorry. I understand where you come from. I respect your boycott, and also, I don't, the whole thing. I'm not gonna blame Nintendo for that. They were the last people who held out, and we want them to do it. And here's the funny thing, Dean. To be honest with you, they are still the last people that held out. Their games are on the cartridge for now. It could be less. I know that. Their games are on the cartridge. So their games are there. Why third parties and stuff like that? Oh, you said this in your video. If they didn't have that, then they would have gone all digital anyway. So it's like they gave an option to slow this. They put a band-aid on a gaping wound. But the wound will happen, and you will have to amputate the arm. It is gonna happen. I'm not delusional. I never was delusional. When I saw this coming in 2012, in 2014 when I started my channel, I said that. But hey, I accepted it. They say you gotta go through grief and whatever, and acceptance is another thing I do. So I accepted it. Not everything's gonna last, my boy. You said boomer. You must be older than me, but anyway, that's just what's gonna happen. Not every good thing's gonna last. I wish it was. I wish Nintendo could keep on going all the time, but they can't. They gotta make money. They gotta feed people. I wish my company that does music, things didn't happen between my family, or whatever. I'm talking about like debts and stuff. That I could keep on doing music all the way to 2017 like I wanted. I was planning to do music to 2017, come back and hit them with some new music, but it didn't happen. And I've not released the album since 2012, which is the last platinum album I released. I'm working on new stuff now. Is it gonna sell? I don't know. Maybe I don't know if I got enough people who got nostalgia that would like to buy my music. Because I'm sorry, and I don't want to feel like an old guy, but I am an old guy. I could, even when I was young and people didn't like rap and reggae, dance hall and stuff like that, I respect a lot of the old music as well too. But then this younger generation of hip hop, I cannot get into that mumble rap crap. I really can't. But anyway, thank you for the video, sir. Physical games are dying. That is true. It is what it is. You just gotta move on, my friend. And again, I respect you for what you say. You don't have to buy the game. Keep doing what you're doing. Play the games on your Switch. All right? And that said, I'm going to leave it at that. Remember, there's no perfect games out there. It's perfect to you, it's not perfect to me. It's perfect to me, it's not perfect to you. Simply enjoy your games on all consoles, including PC. Peace out.